let's move on to Sorry to Bother You, Craig.
10 dry Jacob's crackers enter. 4 dry Jacob's crackers remain. Give me a minute to wash this down.
Do you frame all of your choices about eating things as some sort of Thunderdome arrangement?
I do now. So, I realised recently that there is a huge blind spot in my knowledge of African American filmmakers. I discovered this thanks to Sorry to Bother You, the debut feature of writer-director Boots Riley, which I did not realise was his debut because A, I was adamant I had seen another of his films even though I couldn't name it, and B, this is an incredibly individual and in many ways accomplished first feature. Sorry to Bother You is a difficult film to surmise, so I'm going to cause myself no end of affront and default to IMDb's stock synopsis, which states, in an alternate present-day version of Oakland, telemarketer Cassius Green discovers a magical key to professional success, propelling him into a universe of greed. Now, that is as good and succinct a summation as I or anyone else to my knowledge has provided, the problem being that it doesn't explain the half of it. Lakeith Stanfield, an actor I was adamant I had seen in other lead roles, even though I couldn't name them, is Cassius, a well-meaning young man with bills to pay and an aspiring artist girlfriend, Detroit. Tessa Thompson, who I can confirm I have seen in many other roles, and can name them, who seems as though she may slip from his grasp lest he get his act together. Starting his new job in telemarketing, Cassius is initially woefully unsuccessful and seems destined to workplace anonymity until colleague Langston, Danny Glover, tells him the secret of success. Using your white voice, which is to say, quite literally adopting a Caucasian accent and mannerisms. Soon the clients are eating out of Cassius's hand, and he rises swiftly through the ranks as an office hero and, ultimately, a power seller. Power sellers are the international telemarketers who broker inter-business multi-million-dollar deals, and while it certainly brings him financial gain and corporate kudos, Cassius soon finds himself distanced from his friends who, on the floors below, are organising a revolt against the oppression of their workplace. If that all sounds somewhat plausible, then what you need to know about Sorry to Bother You is that it absolutely is, but at the same time, absolutely is not. What we haven't touched on yet is the surrealism, of which there is a great deal, and it is this which sets the movie apart from its peers. In tackling a well-worn message of, I presume, broadly corporate oppression of the individual, Sorry to Bother You mixes elements of something like Office Space with visual and narrative cues that crib from the works of Michel Gondry and that ilk. The result is an undeniably unique take on a tale as old as capitalism, though that's not to say I found it without flaw. Taking the example of the white voice device, Riley takes the bold route of giving his characters an obvious overdub, and the effect is both immediate and striking in how succinctly it speaks to a broad distrust of black voices in white Western society. Point well made. If I have any quarrel with this device, it's that it eventually outstays its welcome, transitioning from a fresh concept to staid by the time the characters involved have caused to drop the veneer. Likewise, narratively, Riley runs things into the ground somewhat in a final act that takes the surrealist principles so far deployed all the way up to 11, and then on to 12, at which point the wings fall off. I got really frustrated thinking about this movie over the following days, as there is, to my mind, 70% of an age-defining work of art here that feels like it squanders the remaining 30% in a daft, intentional slice into the rough. Having said that, as I read through some of the deserved critical praise bestowed upon his efforts, I also wondered whether or not the real purpose of Riley's work was to demonstrate that, like Jordan Peele achieved with Get Out, a black filmmaker can appropriate a white voice through devices we have traditionally associated with non-black writers and directors. Caveat, I make that statement knowing full well I have, as previously stated, little to no frame of reference in terms of African American filmmakers. If that is the case, then, again, it's a point brilliantly made. Either way, while I am in no way in love with Sorry to Bother You, I do deeply admire its ambitions and I am genuinely excited to see what Riley does next.
Yeah, if you'd stopped me an hour into this film, I would probably be saying this is the best film of the year. Mm-hmm. It was incredibly enjoyable and hugely individual and a beautiful film in a number of regards. And yeah, really enjoyable. My only real absolute complaint is as you mentioned, it's about, at least 20 minutes too long. The last act needed to move a lot faster than it did, and it sort of lingers around a bit and sort of took a little bit of the shine off it for me. I think some people may get a little bit upset with its politics, not the context of it, but it is all text and no subtext. Insert the Garth Marenghi clip. I know authors who use subtext and they're all cowards. This sometimes gets to the point where it might actually be genuinely asking the question, what if people were turned into horses? That's not a question anyone else has answered, and that's why he's brave to ask it. But even with that, even with a last act that's sort of dragging a little bit down, I still hugely enjoyed it. It's certainly one of the most remarkable, individual, distinctive films you've seen this year, which by itself is enough to automatically recommend that anyone should go and watch it. And overall, I think even if with the shine taken off a little bit, I'd still say I really enjoyed it. It's still one of the most remarkable things I've seen this year. Yeah, minor quibbles aside, certainly be overly interested in seeing what it comes up with next.
It's definitely individual and distinctive. And I have no problem with the politics, even if, as you say, Scott, it's very much on the nose. It's a critique of late capitalism. And Boots Riley, I've heard him say that, he's basically a communist. It's like, again, a more Marxist communist rather, Stalinist or anything, but, basically a communist.
Fortunately.
I'm not so gulaggy.
Yes. Less genocidey, more, sharing the wealth sort of thing.
More seize the means of production sort of thing, yeah.
Yes. And, and the whole kind of white voice thing, that does wear a bit, and it's less, it's not so much white voices, because I wouldn't say those voices are particularly white, it's more like, maybe like white people think they should sound, but it doesn't necessarily detract from the idea that, black voices and what's there's actual term for it? I think it's African American dialect or something like that. The dialect that a lot of black people in the United States speak in is it's distrusted in this these recent times that have thoroughly disproved that we're in a post-racial era. That all of those things are true, that it makes valid points, it's distinctive, but my God, was this a chore to watch. I did not enjoy this film at all. It was marketed as a comedy, and I think I laughed twice, which really pissed me off. I hate that mismarketing, unless it just wasn't funny to me, but I found it such a chore to watch. I wasn't enjoying it at all. So I'm sad to say I was thoroughly disappointed by it. I'm interested enough in Boots Riley's work now to go on. I like Michel Gondry's stuff too. Michel Gondry's actually name-checked in this film.
Is he?
When Armie Hammer shows him the film?
Yes.
And it says it's a film by Michel Gondry or something like that, but it is clearly Michel Gondry, but deliberately misspelled. I
think I'd kind of phased out a little bit at that point.
There are bits, and I wonder on a different day when I was quite tired when I watched this, I sort of almost fallen asleep, whether I may have got more of it on a different day, but it was a chore for me to watch. But I'm interested enough in Boots Riley that I will look out for his work in the future.
Yeah. I probably err more on the side of your opinion than Scott's true. I probably sit somewhere in the middle. I do agree that the first hour of this is pretty compelling, but I became completely disinterested in the second hour and found it a chore, very much like you did, Drew. And I didn't laugh out as loud as I thought I might have done, although I appreciated the value of what was happening in front of me. And I think there's a huge amount of craft in it. And again, I'm really excited to see what Boots Riley does next. And I found myself thinking, well, perhaps this isn't a film that's aimed at me. And then I realised that was a really silly, loaded thing to say, because anything which has a racial context to it is probably by definition aimed at me regardless, because if I'm not on the side of the characters in the film, I need to understand their viewpoint from my side of that fence, whether or not I'm happy with that fence existing, and whether or not I perceive it myself. This is a black filmmaker who's trying to tell me something as a white person, and that just made me realise all sorts of things about actually what a gaping hole there is in my knowledge. And I realised that any assumption I was going to make about this film, in the context of film generally, was going to be woefully underinformed. And I probably need to do a bit more research and watch a lot more films by contemporary black filmmakers before I can put this in any kind of context in that sense. So, but I mean, just on the face of it, there is enough evidence here that Boots Riley will have some very interesting films ahead of him, because I would assume, given the critical reaction to this, that he's not going to have any problems getting his next project bankrolled, whatever that might be. And I will be genuinely interested to see what that is and what he does with it.
Okay. Can I just ask you two something? Just, maybe you'd want to cut this out. I'm not sure if it's really relevant. But
Oil of Olay twice a day.
I thought Venom was all right.
was there some point to the guy with the eye patch? Well, was there any point to his eye patch? Probably not. But was there any point to his name being both beeped and the mouth blurred? I kind of missed. I didn't understand what that was.
No.
If it was in reference to anything.
In honesty, Drew, I'd forgotten all about it.
Other than it being a sort of, well, I took it as a joke and didn't really take much past that. If I'm honest, I don't think it had any deeper meaning unless I'm missing something.
Okay.
Yeah, no, couldn't think of it.
I wouldn't have considered it a joke because I said I didn't find this film funny. But yes, I didn't know whether maybe it was like a reference to something that I wasn't getting. But
not that I'm aware of. Unless he just didn't want to call him Mr. Magritte because he was wearing a bowler hat and running with an apple. But other than that, I'm not sure.
Okay, rather mixed opinions on that one. That's interesting.